You hate them, they sting you, it's very irritating. However, if you were referring to bees in the 1980s and you were an automotive fan, chances are you didn't mean the flying insect that disobeys the laws of physics. Okay? No. You were talking about the fastest, fire-breathing, brutal monsters ever to roam the forest of Europe. This is the Group B Rally category. But before I can talk about Group B, we gotta talk about Group 4, the category that preceded it. Specifically, one car in Group 4, the Lancia Stratos. This was the first car in history to be purpose-built for rallying, and it was rather good at it, winning 3 championships in a row from the manufacturer's title. Rather good. The only reason it stopped winning championships is because Fiat decided it wanted this 1-3-1 win a few. Yeah. And by 1981, it was finally ousted from winning rallies, but the FIA had an idea. What if we get everyone to make a Stratos? So, they started coming up with some new rules to encourage manufacturer competition. And by rules, I mean no rules. Because here is a list of every single rule. It must be it cannot be a convertible. Check. It must have at least 2 doors. Check. It has a maximum weight calculated by engine displacement. Check. And it has maximum tire sizes calculated by engine displacement. That's it. Those are all the rules. And that engine displacement thing, if you had a 1-liter car, you could weigh as much as a feather, but you wouldn't have much power. But if you have a 5-liter car, you would have all of the power, but all of the weights. That is what the FIA planned. However, things got a little out of hand, as we would see later on. But by 1983, the first year of competition, it was mainly a transition year from Group 4 to Group B. It was a transition year. Heck, Audi with their revolutionary Quattro, which won the championship in '82, didn't really change a single thing to the Quattro, and they just kind of ran into this Group 4 spec. Lancia, on the other hand, completely redesigned everything from the ground up, and the 037 was born out of the ashes of their 1982 season. And it immediately became a knockdown, drag-out fight between the Audi and the Lancia, starting at Monte Carlo. The surprisingly dry and lack of ice in this Monte Carlo rally allowed the rear-wheel drive Lancia to overcome the four-wheel drive Quattro and claim a 1-2. And it would go back and forth, each team claiming 1-2 after 1-2. And then, with 3 rounds left to go in San Remo, Lancia claimed a 1-2-3, swept the podium, and won the Manufacturers' Championship by 2 points. This would be the last time a rear-wheel drive car would ever claim the World Rally Championship, and the 037 has gone down in history as the only rear-wheel drive car ever to dethrone the mighty all-wheel drive Audi Quattro. Sadly, they could not repeat this feat in 1984, and Audi would once again reclaim the manufacturers' and drivers' titles. But even as they were winning, they cast a nervous glance at the French in Peugeot. You see, Peugeot had entered their 205, a already fantastic little hatchback, but this one was a bit tricky. It had all-wheel drive, it was also mid-engined. Yeah, it was a bit crazy. Mid-engine hatchback, making 350 horsepower to all 4 wheels. This was starting to branch out into something special by year 2. And, well, Audi had the right to be afraid, because by 1985, Peugeot had nailed the 205 down to a science. They upped that little 4-banger to make 400 horsepower, and with that all-wheel drive, it was more agile than the Quattro because of that mid-engine placement. These things were starting to be seriously quick. And Peugeot would claim the manufacturer's title and driver's title in 1985. But they were all starting to take nervous glances at Lancia, who in the last rally, the RAC rally of 1985, entered in a monster. A 500 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, Lancia Delta S4. This was based off the little 1980s European car of the year, the Delta. And it shared the windshield and the grille with the actual road car. And everything else was completely different from the ground up. Space frame chassis, 4-wheel drive, a turbocharged and supercharged engine, a world first by the way. It was an absolute beast. And Henry Toivonen drove it to its first ever win in his first ever outing in 1985 RAC Rally. And 1986, that's when the fun began. Things were dialed up from 10 to 11. Renault entered in a upgraded Renault 5 Turbo 2, rear-wheel drive, 350 horsepower in that little French hatchback. Ford upped the ante, returning after several years with the RS200, making anywhere from 550 horsepower to 800 horsepower, depending on the fuel usage, in a mid-engine sports car designed from the ground up. We had Ferrari developing the 288 GTO. We had Nissan, we had Mitsubishi developing the Starion. Porsche was beginning to enter the 959. BMW, Mercedes were all working on prototypes. Austin Rover entered the MG Metro. Not that boring thing. This. Yeah. Maybe it kind of looks like a Metro if you look at it really hard, but it is a stretch no matter what. That had a 450 horsepower all-wheel drive system. It was naturally aspirated V6, so it couldn't quite rival the top dogs. And speaking of the top dogs, they were quite fast. Audi was running the Quattro S1, developing over 600 horsepower with a snowplow and massive rear wing. Peugeot was running the Evolution 2 of the 205. That was belting out 650 horsepower to all four wheels, with an even bigger wing on the roof. And Lancia would come in like a screaming eagle with anywhere from 550 horsepower to a theoretical, now they never ran this number because it would kill everybody, but it was theoretically possible based on testing they had done in the labs, a 1,000 horsepower inline 4 in their Delta S4, making it one of the most powerful cars per liter ever devised by mankind. 1.8 liters, 1,000 horsepower in 1986. With Henry Toivonen at the helm, the Lancia easily took victory in the Monte Carlo Rally in 1986, and it looked like it was going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight again for Lancia between Peugeot and Lancia for the title. And then it all went disastrously wrong in Portugal. A Ford RS200 lost control and flew into a crowd of spectators, killing 3 and injuring 30 more. in one of the deadliest single-vehicle incidents in motor racing history. All top manufacturers immediately pulled out of the rally, and Group B was put in jeopardy. And just as it seemed it couldn't get any worse, in the Tour de Corsa just a few rallies later, a Lancia Delta S4 driven by Toivonen and his co-driver Sergio Perez were absolutely flying down the tarmac roads, blistering lap records every single stage, getting faster and faster before flying off an unguarded edge and into some trees. The fuel tanks that they were sitting on exploded on the white-hot turbocharger, and the Kevlar bodywork was melted and burned so much that by the time rescue crews arrived 30 minutes later, all they found was a charred remain of an aluminum roll cage and chassis. Combine Toivonen's death and the Portugal incident, the FIA decided the cars were too fast to race, and they were banned just a few days later. Group B was done. They allowed them to compete for the rest of 1986, and Peugeot would eventually claim the title. But it was a hollow victory, as both Audi and Ford immediately withdrew from all competition following the Toivonen's death. So what happened? What happened to the cars? These absolute monsters without a home. Well, Porsche took their 959 that was in the midway through of development and turned it into a Dakar winning off-roader of all things. And Peugeot did the same thing as well as the 205. Both Audi and Peugeot conquered Pikes Peak over here in the States. Ford and Austin Rover continued to battle each other in the national rallies where Group B was still allowed. And, well, Citroën, they took a different route. They developed a car that kind of sucked for Group B. It was a bit too heavy. So their best reaction was to buy back all but 88 of the cars and burn them. Yeah, someone's a bit of a sore loser, we'll be honest. Now, there was more success from Lancia and Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi turned their Starion prototype they've been developing into the Lancer Evolution, which won a few drivers' titles here and there. And Lancia turned their deadly Delta S4 into the most successful rally car of all time, the HF Integrale. You know, that's not a bad deal. Turning the greatest car to never win a championship into the greatest car in all of rallying, you know, that's not a bad deal. The Group Bs were a myth. They were a folk tale that got shoved into the real world at a time where technology outpaced human capabilities. One driver was quoted saying the cars were so fast you could not think fast enough. And it was something that perfectly encapsulated the decade of the 80s. And we know the WRC cars of today are getting more and more powerful, but nothing will ever quite match the adrenaline rush that was Group B.